Ananya and Raghav appeared to be the perfect newlyweds. She, the graceful bride admired by everyone, and he, the ambitious husband with wealth and respect. But beneath the glitter of their wedding lay a deadly secret that would end in betrayal, rage, and murder. The wedding of Ananya and Raghav was the talk of the entire town. For weeks, preparations filled the air with excitement. The streets near the bride's home were decorated with lights and marigold garlands, and relatives from distant cities arrived with trunks of clothes and gifts. The sound of drums and shehnai echoed as neighbors gathered to watch the grand spectacle unfold. Ananya, dressed in a deep red lehenga embroidered with gold threads, looked like the image of perfection. Her jewelry shimmered under the lights, and her calm smile was praised as a sign of her good fortune. Beside her, Raghav carried himself with quiet pride, his family beaming as they welcomed a new daughter-in-law. Everything about the day seemed flawless. The rituals were performed with precision, the priests chanting sacred verses while guests showered the couple with flowers. The wedding hall overflowed with laughter, dancing, and endless plates of food. Families mingled, photographs were taken, and every moment was recorded as if time itself should remember the union. To the outside world, this was a dream marriage, blending tradition with prosperity. For Ananya, the weight of the moment was heavier than the ornaments on her neck. She walked through each ritual gracefully, never letting the unease inside her show. Her parents believed they had secured her future with a man who could give her comfort, status, and security. Raghav was known to be ambitious, disciplined, and respected in business circles. Everyone said she was lucky. And yet, beneath the sparkle of celebration, she carried a secret that threatened to undo everything. As the night ended with blessings for a happy married life, no one noticed the flicker of fear in her eyes. It was the beginning of a union built on fragile lies, destined to collapse. Ananya's past was something she had tried to bury long before the wedding. In her college years, she had fallen deeply in love with Arav, a young man from her class who came from an ordinary family. Their relationship had lasted for years, filled with stolen moments, long phone calls, and promises of a future together. But when her parents discovered their bond, everything changed. They dismissed Arav as unsuitable, arguing that love could not provide the kind of security and honor they sought for their daughter. Under pressure and fearing she would lose her family's respect, Ananya ended the relationship, though her heart resisted letting go. Even after the breakup, memories of Arav lingered. She carried their shared moments like hidden scars, never speaking of them, but never forgetting either. Then, just weeks before her marriage to Raghav, she discovered the truth that would shatter her carefully constructed plans. A missed cycle, a hurried visit to a clinic, and the reality stood clear. She was pregnant. The news left her numb. She wanted to confide in Arav, but he had already left her world behind. With no one to turn to, she convinced herself she could hide it until she adjusted to her new life. Ananya's hope was that no one would question too much, that the changes in her body could be disguised or explained away. She believed that with time, the secret might fade, and she could still fulfill the role of dutiful wife and daughter-in-law. Yet deep down, she knew the truth would surface. Each ritual of the wedding reminded her of the silent weight she carried, a secret growing inside her that belonged to another man. The stage was set for tragedy, though she tried desperately to walk forward as if nothing was wrong. The first weeks of marriage unfolded smoothly in Raghav's household. Ananya was welcomed warmly, treated with affection, and guided through the daily routines of her new home. She performed her duties as a bride with diligence, helping in the kitchen, attending family prayers, and adapting to the traditions that surrounded her. On the surface, life seemed calm and promising. But within those quiet corridors, tiny details began to draw attention. Raghav's mother noticed how often Ananya excused herself from meals, claiming nausea or fatigue. She watched her daughter-in-law avoid rich foods and favor simple, bland dishes. At first, it was brushed off as a matter of adjustment, but soon whispers of pregnancy filled the household. The family celebrated the possibility. Blessings were showered upon Ananya, and relatives began making plans for the arrival of a child. For them, this was a joyous turn of events, a sign that their home would soon echo with laughter. Raghav, however, found himself unsettled. The timing gnawed at him. They had been married for only a short while, and yet the signs suggested that the pregnancy was already advanced. He attempted to dismiss the thought, telling himself he was being paranoid, but doubt lingered like a shadow he could not escape. Raghav began to observe her more closely. He noticed the way her hand instinctively rested on her stomach, the way she avoided discussing the future of the child, the nervous silence whenever others brought up her condition. The pieces did not align, and unease grew into suspicion. What the rest of the family saw as a blessing, he began to see as a possible betrayal. His mind turned restless, replaying timelines and memories until suspicion hardened into quiet obsession. It was only a matter of time before he sought proof. Raghav's unease soon grew too heavy to ignore. He decided to take matters into his own hands, determined to uncover the truth that haunted him. Without sharing his concerns with anyone in the family, he began to act in secret. He arranged a visit to a private doctor, claiming it was a routine checkup for his wife. The report he received confirmed his darkest fears. Ananya was nearly 3 months pregnant. The calculation was undeniable. Conception had taken place well before their wedding, leaving no possibility that he was the father. The discovery struck him like a blow, his pride collapsing under the weight of betrayal. He replayed every moment since the wedding, the sickness, the evasive looks, the nervous silences. Now it all made sense. What his family celebrated as joy, he could only see as humiliation. Rage boiled within him, and yet he remained outwardly calm, unwilling to expose his knowledge too soon. Instead, he searched for something tangible that tied Ananya to her past. His anger needed confirmation, a link between her secret and another man. One evening, while she was away in the kitchen, Raghav quietly sifted through her belongings. Hidden beneath folded clothes, inside the pages of a diary, he found what he was looking for. A faded photograph showed Ananya standing beside a man he recognized from whispers and half-told stories. Arav, her college lover. The smile on her face in the picture was one he had never seen directed at him. That single image was enough to convince him that her betrayal was complete. From that moment, Raghav's love curdled into hatred. His mind no longer sought explanations, only retribution. The secret that Ananya had hoped to bury was now exposed, and it marked the beginning of her end. The evening that sealed Ananya's fate began like any other, quiet and ordinary on the surface. The servants had been sent away earlier than usual, and most of the family was out visiting relatives, leaving the house unusually still. Ananya, relieved to have a moment of solitude, busied herself with small tasks, unaware that her husband's simmering anger had reached its breaking point. For days, Raghav had carried the weight of his discovery, his mind consumed by thoughts of betrayal. On this night, his rage finally demanded release. The confrontation began in silence. His presence was heavy, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity she could not escape. What followed was not a burst of words, but a storm of violence. His fists, driven by humiliation and fury, fell again and again. She stumbled, tried to shield herself, but there was no mercy in his movements. The quiet walls of the home absorbed her muffled cries, sounds that might have reached neighbors but were dismissed as nothing unusual. Each blow landed with brutal finality, stripping away her strength until she could no longer fight back. The attack continued until her body gave way, collapsing under the weight of relentless cruelty. The room grew eerily still, the silence broken only by the sound of Raghav's heavy breathing. Ananya lay lifeless on the cold floor, the secret she had tried to hide now irrelevant in the face of death. For Raghav, the act brought no relief, only a hollow emptiness where his rage had once burned. What began as suspicion had ended in irreversible tragedy. Within the walls of their grand home, a bride who once symbolized hope and happiness had been transformed into a victim of violence, silenced forever by the man who had vowed to protect her. The morning after Ananya's death, the house was cloaked in uneasy silence. Raghav moved quickly, attempting to disguise what had happened. He claimed his wife had collapsed suddenly in the night, perhaps from an undiagnosed illness. Family members, shocked and grief-stricken, clung to his story at first, unwilling to believe that such horror could unfold in their home. The neighbors, however, whispered of strange noises they had heard, of muffled cries that had pierced the night. Soon, rumors spread beyond the household walls, drawing unwanted attention. When the authorities arrived, Raghav's carefully built tale began to unravel. Ananya's body bore injuries that no illness could explain. Bruises marked her skin, and internal bleeding confirmed violent assault. The autopsy left little room for doubt. What had been presented as a sudden tragedy was in truth a brutal killing. Investigators dug deeper, uncovering the details of her pregnancy and the whispers of her past relationship. The picture that emerged was not one of mystery, but of rage, betrayal, and unchecked violence. The arrest came swiftly. Raghav, once admired for his wealth and ambition, was led away in handcuffs, his reputation shattered. His family, once proud and respected, now carried the heavy stain of scandal. Ananya's parents were left devastated, grieving not only the loss of their daughter but the cruel circumstances of her end. For the community, the story became more than gossip. It was a chilling reminder of how pride and anger could destroy lives. In the aftermath, Ananya's name lived on as a cautionary tale. Her life, once celebrated in bright colors and joyful rituals, had been extinguished behind closed doors. The tragedy exposed the fragility of appearances, showing how quickly dreams could turn into nightmares when secrets met fury.